Imagine spending months, maybe years, creating something amazing. A product, a piece of code, a unique process perhaps, only for someone else to steal it and use it before you ever had the chance to. That's not fiction. That actually happened to a company who came to us recently with this exact problem. You see, what had happened was their developer working for them, he was helping them create a groundbreaking piece of software, a software platform. It had the potential to reshape their entire industry. But that developer was innocently, perhaps, trying to shortcut a problem. They'd hit a snag. So they posted some of the code into both ChatGPT to see what AI would come back with, but they also posted it into a public forum. Now, okay, innocent enough, perhaps, but it left that business at risk. And unfortunately, a competitor's coder spotted it. They copied the idea and their company released a prototype first. The result? They lost their competitive advantage straight away. Now, this is exactly why this particular control, Annex A5.32, is so important. So what does the standard actually state? Well, it's fairly simple. It states that the organization shall implement appropriate procedures to protect intellectual property rights. Plain and simple, right? But it's not just a tick box exercise. This is about protecting what makes your business unique. Think about it. Your software code, that's IP. Your client list, that's IP. Your pricing strategy, yep, that's intellectual property too. Even the internal documents that you created, all of those templates and policies and procedures and the way that your business operates, all of that took time and energy and money to build. You lose it and you lose more than data. You lose the thing that you worked so hard to build. You built up that trust, that reputation, and that has led to an increase in revenue and success of your organization. If you lose the intellectual property and someone else takes that or copies it, then that leaves you at risk. So that's why this control is so important. So what will the auditor be looking for? Well, they'll be wanting to look for a number of things. This again isn't just looking for a simple policy or procedure. They're going to want to see that you, for instance, have a legal register that reflects intellectual property protection, directly or indirectly. What does it say within the contracts that you've got in place with your customers about the protection of IP? Who owns the intellectual property when a developer creates it? Who works for you? So the auditor is going to want to look in your contracts with your staff, your contracts with consultants and contractors and suppliers, for example. So they're going to expect to see all of these things in place. They'll expect to see things like software audits as well, because it's not just about protecting your intellectual property, it's about how you're protecting other people's. So when you're using somebody else's software, for example, are you protecting their rights? Because, for example, software often is installed on networks and systems and such, and scant regard is often paid to who's using that. And licenses that software companies provide are all about protecting their intellectual property. Are you paying the right amounts for the number of clients or employees that are using that particular piece of software? And let's be honest, how many times have you seen people grab images from Google for a PowerPoint a presentation or a video, perhaps? These are rarely just royalty-free images. Someone owns that intellectual property. So the auditor is going to want to look at things like that as well. If the auditor's switched on, they'll take a look at your website and say, who created these images that you're using on your website? Do you know who created the images on your website? Have you used a royalty-free website? And is it really royalty-free? Is it royalty-free for personal use, but in a commercial setting, you have to pay a license fee? Because remember, that's somebody else's intellectual property. Someone else poured their creative heart into creating that in much the same way that you poured your collective minds and energies into creating your products and services. Just remember, if you're using it, you better have the right license in place. That's what this particular control is all about. So what do you need to do? Well, first and foremost, go and take a look at your legal register and make sure that it does include your intellectual property related aspects. So does it talk about that within contracts? Is it mentioned on there? What are the specific requirements that are in your contracts? You should review your acceptable use policy as well. So is it acceptable for people to take your intellectual property, your contracts, your policies, your code, and just paste that into ChatGPT or into some other online repository? Probably not. So go and review your acceptable use policy and make sure that you talk about that. And of course, acceptable use of imagery in presentations or videos or sound clips, whatever it might be. And of course, it depends on your business. If you are a creative organization, if you're in marketing, for instance, you may rely heavily on images and videos and such. Just make sure you're using the right images in the right way. So you need to check your acceptable use policy and make sure it reflects that. You should also revisit your information classification procedures and processes as well, and make sure that you have some form of marking if something is highly confidential or critical, that intellectual property should be marked as confidential. You should limit the access to the IP on a need-to-know basis. Your intellectual property for code, for instance, should only be accessible by coders or testers, perhaps. Should it be accessible by your HR team and the operations team and sales and marketing? Probably not. So limit access. So again, you need to go and take a look at what your access processes look like, your role-based access process. And make sure you educate your teams on intellectual property as well. We have a fantastic IP lawyer. She is Carrie Bradley of Avatar Law, and she's an incredible source of information and knowledge around intellectual property, trademarks, copyright. You need to reach out to someone like her so that you can really understand this, because this is a legal requirement. You know, this is not just a nice to have. Yes, this control is a very short control within 27001, but there is so much to it. It's a legal requirement. You will be breaking the law if you don't approach this in an appropriate way. So here's something to consider as we finish. If a competitor got hold of your customer database, would it hurt your business? Would it give them an advantage? Then it's IP, it's intellectual property, and it needs protecting. Your intellectual property is the DNA of your business. Protecting it isn't just about compliance, it's about staying in control of your future. And can you really afford not to take it seriously? So there you are. I hope that has been helpful. If it has, please give it a like. I'd love to hear your thoughts around this in terms of the Annex A control. What's your thoughts around intellectual property? What's your experience? Have you ever had an issue where someone has taken your IP or your trademark or things that you've copywritten? I hope you've enjoyed this. As ever, I've been Gary Hibbard. I'm the co-founder of Consultants Like Us, where we help you understand information security, ISO 27001 in plain English. As ever, we try and turn compliance into something that is easy to understand. And it's all about compliance without complexity for us. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, stay safe and stay legal. Thank you. Bye.